Welcome into the Friday Night 360 AZ preview show. I'm Jordan Ham. She's Haley Stasiak. We're at week 3 already, Haley. Sort of amazing, and you're already in mid-season form. You're playing a little hurt, a little sick. Usually that comes around the playoff time, but week 3, what are you most excited about this week?
Well, I'm headed out to Brophy at Highland this week, and I mean, it's been a crazy few weeks of just kind of getting in the swing of things, getting used to the Arizona high school football landscape, but it's been fun, it's been exciting, and it's been a pretty good season so far.
Have a great show for you. Williamsfield head coach Steve Campbell and the Arizona Daily Star's Justin Spears will be joining us. And with that, we're going to go ahead and bring Coach Campbell in. Coach, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me on the show.
We saw last year with Noah Polagates what he can do in the secondary with Trey Bugg, but this year he's really developed his junior season as a wide receiver. What sort of growth have you seen this offseason in his versatility?
That was, kind of our plan last year. We knew that he was a special athlete, and we knew that he was going to be a very dynamic player. And so going into last year, him only being a sophomore, we said, let's commit it to teaching him the defense side of the ball, the defensive scheme, let him grow up a little bit playing one side of the ball, and then with 2 years left, expand his role. So now he's playing running back and receiver for us, and kind of all over the field.
Your offensive line is pretty well known. What goes into developing these guys as underclassmen to come in and make an immediate impact?
A lot of it's genetics. Let's be honest. These guys, when we're big this year. We're real big, and that's not a normal thing for us. We've actually had a lot of smaller offensive linemen. I'm very fortunate that I have a great offensive line coach who has been with me since the very first day here at Williamsfield High School. So we've been together 11 years, which makes it huge having that consistency. And then on top of that is my JV coach played for us. He was our first graduating class, on a typical way undersized offensive lineman, but just understood the game really well. So when you have somebody who's been with you 11 years, and then another person who's been with you in either as a player form or as a coach form for 11 years, they understand what the program is about, and so that development is unbelievable, and that allows us to be on the same page throughout the entire program, which bring some of these kids along. And it's also important to have guys that understand it's not about the right now at your lower levels. It's about what's best for the program in the future. We have one of our kids that's starting for us, when he was a freshman, used to intentionally lock his helmet in other kids' lockers so he would not have to play in football games. And now he's a starting offensive lineman for us, So, but having that understanding at the lower levels that this kid can be something someday, and we need to develop and work him is important.
Here with Williamsfield head coach Steve Campbell. Coach, Zach Shepard, second-year starter, helped lead you guys to a state championship last year. Off to a great start with 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. What sort of development have you seen as he's coming into his second year as the team starter?
His development has been who he is the entire time. This is what he did last year. But where I think the biggest growth is last year he was a sophomore with 2 returning very good wide receivers. A kid who, as a true freshman, played up at NAU last week against U of A, and another kid who's at Pueblo, which is probably one of the top D2 programs in the country. He had those 2 guys last year as a sophomore. Well, he lost both of those receivers, and he's brought other guys along with him, and develop them. He has a slot receiver / running back that went out in game 2. It went out our second game in the first quarter, and yet he still continues to produce. So when he has a turnover that he's had the receiver position, at the slot position, and the injuries that we've had even this year, and him still be productive, just kind of tells you what kind of person he is. And the best thing, and I've said this in a couple of interviews now, the best thing about Zach is you talk about leadership and being a leader, and all quarterbacks are leaders and things like that. And there's a lot of kids in our football programs that are leaders. But when he makes the people around him better, that's a different level. It's not just about leading those guys. It's those guys, he makes them better than they were the day before on the football field. That just kind of tells you what he is and how much, sometimes he knows when to have patience with guys. He knows when to get on guys' butt. He knows when to push and when to pull, and that's what's the most amazing thing about the guy.
Who is a guy on this team that the public isn't really talking about, but that they should be?
I would actually say Zach is, to be honest with you. I mean, I know you guys mentioned him and that type of thing, but when it comes to, the 2019 quarterbacks, he gets very little respect. When it comes to the guys that are seniors this year, people don't really mention him in the context of that they should, and in the context of who he is. Yeah, he's an inch shorter than such guy. He's whatever, but people don't realize he puts up the numbers he does in a pro style offense. We don't run the spread offense. We do it with a heavy run game thing. He's done it now where he doesn't have Division I talent just across the board that he's throwing the ball to. He does this stuff and puts up these numbers and puts up this productivity in a somewhat unfriendly quarterback realm. You know what I mean? I mean, just from, these guys that throw the ball every single down, yes, they're going to have great stats and they're dinking and dunking the ball. Okay, they're going to have great high completion percentage. He has a high completion percentage with great yards per attempt and touchdown to interception ratio, and he probably doesn't get the credit that he should. So I would say that the easiest one is that one. The unsung as a whole is the defense. It was a group that we lost 9 starters off of that defense last year, and that defense this year coming in, they were kind of questioning, well, losing 9 starters, how's we still going to play on defense? And to this point, they've been fantastic, and that starts with Jackson Vaught. He's one of the two. Noah's a returner in the secondary. Jackson's a returner and D tackle up front, and his mentality, his grit, his who he is starting to rub off on the guys around him, and we're starting to kind of develop that. So, I would say that as a group, it'd be the defense on that side, and as a player on the defense side of the ball, it'd be Jackson Vaught, because he is an unbelievably smart, intelligent, just get after type football player, to the point where my D-line coach has him stay on Saturdays on film breakdowns, because he just gets it and he sees it differently, and they go over stuff together, and he helps out, basically like looking at it from a game plan standpoint. Someday he will be a coach at some level when he's done playing, just because the kid gets it like that. So like I said, I think Zach's unsung from the quarterback position compared to some of the guys, other guys that get a lot of notoriety. I think the defenses as a group, and I think Jackson Vaught as an individual on the defense side of the ball.
You're coming off a state championship season in a very competitive 5A. It seems like this year they're even better. It seems like there's 8 to 10 teams that really could make a run. First off, how do you navigate such a tough division, and how do you think this is going to make you guys a better program throughout this year?
You just honestly, and it's such a cliche, but you just have to take one game at a time. We can't think about Chaparral the next week, or Campbell Verde the next week after that, or Queen Creek in a year, or anything like that. You have to focus on who you have in front of you and that week, and which was the probably one of the best things about coming up to 5A. I remember when we were down in 4A, you played, and that was when Queen Creek was down, but we played 2-3 tough football teams maybe during the regular season, and now that was we remember we're in the region with Saguaro and Queen Creek, so you kind of see, and then the rest of them was kind of like you're on coast mode for a lot of the regular season, and then you get into the playoffs and you're back up again. So that was one of the actually funnest parts about coming to 5A is pretty much week in and week out you're getting ready for a team. Now, is there some teams in there that it's a little bit unbalanced? Sure, absolutely, but for the majority of it, every week you have to come ready to play. There is not a hands down, this is, we've got this taken care of, guys, let's go ahead and heal up or rest up this week and that type of thing. Every week you got to be ready to play. Williams
Field is 3-0 on the year. They take on Verrado this Friday. Coach Campbell, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, so that was Coach Campbell from Williams Field. A lot to be excited about with this team. They had a lot of turnover from that state championship team, like he said. 9 starters on the defense having to be replaced, but the defense has been lights out. So a lot of really interesting things that the coach had to say about this year's team.
Yeah, definitely. And his point about Zach Shepard kind of being his under-the-radar player, I thought that was very interesting because it's true. He is a very underrated 2019 quarterback.
Coming up next, we have Justin Spears from the Arizona Daily Star. We're going to be talking Tucson football. That's coming up next on the Friday Night 360 AZ Preview Show.